The bright studio lights of Rockefeller Plaza's Studio 1A shimmered across the glossy stage floor as Carrie Underwood walked out to the cheers of a live audience. The band played a soft rendition of "Before He Cheats," and Carrie waved gracefully, her signature country charm lighting up the room. Dressed in a tailored emerald green blazer with gold buttons and sleek black heels, she looked every bit the star, polished, confident, and poised for another easy morning interview. But behind her calm smile, there was a flicker of tension. Her team had already warned her about one particular segment the producers were planning, something about controversial comments from the Country Music Awards. Jenna Bush Hager greeted her warmly, her friendly energy immediately filling the air. "Carrie, we are so excited to have you back. You look incredible, and we've been obsessed with your new single, Hardlines." "Thank you so much," Carrie replied with a gracious nod. "It's been such a fun project. I really poured a lot of myself into this one." The first few minutes went smoothly. They talked about her new music video, her fitness line, and even shared a laugh about her kids growing up too fast. The audience responded with applause and smiles, everything was perfectly in rhythm. Then Dylan Dreyer, one of the co-hosts, shifted in her seat and pulled out a cue card. "Carrie," she began carefully, "I want to ask you about something that's been making waves online." Carrie's smile didn't fade, but her posture stiffened slightly. She already knew where this was going. Dylan continued, "There's been a lot of chatter after the CMAs, that comment you made about how country music has been losing its roots. Some fans and even newer artists said they felt like you were dismissing them. What do you say to that?" The studio audience went quiet. Even Jenna glanced sideways at Dylan, perhaps realizing this was about to turn into something heavier than morning show fluff. Carrie took a slow breath, her voice measured. "Well," she began, "I've been in this industry for almost 20 years. What I said wasn't meant to tear anyone down. It was about staying true to the soul of country music, storytelling, honesty, and emotion. That's what built this genre. It wasn't a dig at anyone." Dylan nodded politely, but pressed on. "Of course, but some people online are saying your comment came off as, well, judgmental. That maybe you're resistant to the newer, more pop-influenced sound." Carrie's lips tightened. "You know, I think people love to twist words. I'm proud of the artists coming up, but I'll always stand up for what country music means to me. Authenticity isn't a trend." A few quiet claps came from the audience, sensing the tension but unsure how to react. Jenna tried to intervene with her trademark calmness. "I think what you're saying, Carrie, is that you want to keep the heart of the genre alive, right?" "Exactly," Carrie said firmly. "And it's frustrating when something genuine turns into drama. It's like people are waiting to be offended instead of understanding." The camera caught the brief flash of irritation in her eyes. Dylan, perhaps feeling cornered, offered a small laugh and said, "Oh, come on, Carrie, you've got to admit, you have a strong influence. When you say something, people listen. So, naturally, they'll react." Carrie's voice sharpened, her southern accent deepening slightly. "There's a difference between reacting and twisting. I don't owe the internet an apology every time I speak my truth." The audience gasped softly. Jenna glanced nervously at the control booth, where producers were signaling to move on. But the conversation had taken on a life of its own. Carrie leaned forward, her hands clasped. "You know, it's funny. I came here today to talk about music, about my album, about creativity, and somehow, we're talking about headlines again. Is that what this show is now? Just echoing gossip?" Jenna blinked, caught off guard. No, that's not. We just wanted to clear the air and..." Carrie cut her off gently, but with edge. "You wanted a soundbite. That's what everyone wants these days." Her voice wasn't yelling, but it carried power, the kind of low, unwavering tone that silences a room. Dylan opened her mouth to respond, but Jenna raised a hand, signaling her to stop. "Carrie, I promise that wasn't our intention," Jenna said quickly, her voice soft and calm. "We truly respect you and..." "Respect means letting artists talk about what they want to talk about," Carrie interrupted, her composure cracking for the first time. "It means not turning every interview into a controversy. I'm so tired of being polite about it." The crowd murmured. Someone in the back clapped uncertainly before being shushed by a producer. Carrie stood abruptly, straightening her blazer. "You know what? I'm done. I came here to celebrate music, not to defend my name against something I never said." Jenna looked helplessly at the control booth. "Carrie, wait." Carrie turned to face her. "Jenna, I adore you. But this isn't fair. Her words hung heavy in the air. The entire set fell silent except for the faint hum of the lights above. One of the cameramen froze mid-pan, unsure whether to keep filming. Jenna forced a nervous smile for the audience. "Well, live TV, folks," she said with a half-laugh, trying to salvage the moment. But Carrie was already walking off stage. As she exited, her heels clicked sharply against the floor, echoing through the stunned silence. Her team quickly followed, whispering frantic reassurances. One of the producers muttered, "Cut to commercial, now." And the show faded to a smiling Jenna introducing the next cooking segment as if nothing had happened. But the internet had already exploded. Viewers clipped the confrontation, posting it on social media within minutes. Carrie Underwood rages on Today's Show trended across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Some called her unprofessional. Others hailed her as the only artist brave enough to call out fake journalism. Meanwhile, outside the studio, paparazzi waited. Carrie stepped into the brisk New York air, shielding her eyes from the flashing cameras. "Carrie, were you angry at Jenna? Do you regret walking off? Is this about your feud with new artists?" shouted reporters. She said nothing, just kept walking toward her black SUV, her jaw tight. One of her assistants whispered, "Do you want me to release a statement?" "Not yet," Carrie muttered, pulling the car door open. "Let them talk. They always do." As the vehicle pulled away from the plaza, Carrie looked out the window, the bright billboards blurring past. She wasn't just frustrated, she was hurt. She'd worked years to be respected for her artistry, not treated like clickbait. Back inside the Today studio, Jenna and Dylan sat silently during the commercial break, the tension still thick in the air. "Did we just lose her?" Dylan whispered. Jenna sighed, rubbing her temples. "We didn't lose her," she said softly. "We just reminded her why she doesn't trust these shows anymore." By the time the episode ended, news outlets had already begun publishing their stories. Carrie Underwood explodes on live TV, Country Queen storms off after fiery clash, and Underwood vs. The Today Show. What really happened? Carrie's phone buzzed non-stop as headlines poured in, but she ignored them all, knowing that for once, she hadn't just performed another interview. She'd made a statement, raw, unfiltered, and very, very real. And in that moment, even amid the noise, she felt strangely free. Hours after the tense live broadcast, Carrie Underwood sat in her Manhattan hotel suite, surrounded by half-empty coffee cups, muted TV screens, and the persistent vibration of her phone. Notifications flashed across it like wildfire. Carrie Underwood rages on Today's Show. Country superstar walks off live broadcast. Jenna and friends left speechless. Every outlet was spinning the moment in their own dramatic way, dissecting her expression, tone, even her posture. Carrie set the phone down on the table and exhaled deeply. Her reflection in the glass window stared back, calm on the outside, but storming within. Her manager, Tom, stood near the couch, watching her cautiously. He was a seasoned professional, calm, methodical, but even he knew this was bad press territory. "Carrie, we need to get ahead of this," he said softly. "The network's already calling. They want to clarify what happened." Carrie turned toward him. "Clarify? You mean spin?" Tom hesitated. "That's how the game works, Carrie. If we don't say something, everyone else will write the story for us." Carrie shook her head, pacing across the room. "I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I just told the truth." "Since when did being honest become a scandal?" Tom sighed. "Since honesty became clickbait." He wasn't wrong. The internet was ablaze. Clips of her walking off had been viewed millions of times. Twitter was divided. Half the users praised her for standing her ground, while the other half mocked her for losing her cool. Memes were already circulating. Someone had edited her walking off to the tune of "Before He Cheats." Her assistant, Kelly, entered quietly, carrying a laptop. "The label wants a statement," she said. Something like, "Carrie regrets the misunderstanding and appreciates Jenna's professionalism." Something calm. Carrie raised an eyebrow. "Regrets the misunderstanding," she scoffed. "There was no misunderstanding. I said what I meant. They ambushed me with tabloid questions on national TV. I'm not going to pretend that's fine." Tom rubbed his forehead. "Carrie, you know how this works. The longer we wait, the worse it looks. Even Jenna's team has already released a line saying it was just a passionate exchange. We need to match that energy, or better." Carrie walked back to the window, looking down at the streets below. The city buzzed, people moving, laughing, hustling, completely oblivious to the storm circling above them. You know what I think. She said quietly. People are tired of fake smiles and rehearsed answers. Maybe it's time someone reminded them that artists are human. Kelly exchanged a worried glance with Tom. Maybe, she said carefully, but people also like polite humans. Carrie smirked faintly. Maybe I'll write a song about it, polite humans lie. Tom chuckled under his breath, but his phone buzzed again. He frowned as he read the message. Oh boy, TMZ just released the full clip. They're calling it, Carrie's morning meltdown. Carrie groaned. Of course they are. She grabbed her phone and began scrolling through comments, her jaw tightening as she read each one. She's such a diva, finally showing her true colors. Go Carrie, speak your truth. The internet had already chosen sides, but the truth didn't matter, the drama was the story now. Then, a message notification appeared on her screen. It was from Jenna Hager. Hey Carrie, just wanted to say I'm sorry for how that went down. I think things got more heated than anyone expected. I know you came to talk about your music, and I hope we can clear the air soon. Carrie read it twice. Jenna's tone was genuine, not corporate, not PR filtered, just human. She typed back, appreciate that, Jenna. I wasn't trying to make a scene. I just wish interviews stayed about the music and not the noise. She set her phone down again, leaning back against the couch. For the first time that day, the anger started to melt into exhaustion. The whole thing, the backlash, the noise, the endless opinions, felt like static around her head. Later that evening, Carrie decided to go out for a walk, wrapping a scarf around her face to avoid attention. The crisp New York air helped clear her mind. A few fans recognized her, snapping pictures from afar, but she ignored them. She ended up sitting on a bench near Central Park, scrolling through her old notes app filled with unfinished lyrics. One line caught her eye, they twist your truth, but you still stand tall. She whispered the words under her breath and smiled. It was something she'd written months ago, but it suddenly felt prophetic. When she returned to the hotel, Tom was waiting with a glass of water. You okay? Better, she said. I've been thinking, maybe we don't need a statement. Maybe we just move forward. Let the music speak. Tom frowned. That's risky. Carrie shrugged. So is being real. The next morning, Jenna addressed the incident briefly on Today with Jenna and Friends. She looked calm, poised, but there was a hint of discomfort in her smile. Yesterday, we had a very passionate conversation with our friend Carrie Underwood, she said, looking into the camera. Live TV can get emotional sometimes, but we love Carrie and her incredible talent. We wish her nothing but the best. The audience applauded, and social media softened. The feud began shifting into misunderstanding. People started rewatching the clip and realizing Carrie hadn't actually yelled or insulted anyone. The tone began to change. In Nashville, a few days later, Carrie walked into her recording studio, her sanctuary. The air smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. Her guitarist strummed quietly in the corner while her producer, Shane, adjusted knobs on the soundboard. You ready to get back to work? He asked. She smiled faintly. More than ever. They began recording a new track, something Carrie had written overnight. The lyrics were raw and unapologetic. They'll say I broke the silence, they'll say I lost my cool. But maybe standing up is what the brave ones do. I ain't here for headlines, I'm here for truth. So take your rumors, I'll take my roots. When she finished the take, the studio went quiet. Shane looked up, stunned. Carrie, that's powerful. She nodded. Good, because I meant every word. By the end of the week, she posted a short clip of the new song on Instagram. No caption, no explanation, just her singing the chorus, eyes closed, voice fierce and steady. Within hours, it went viral. Comments poured in. This is the Carrie we love. She turned the drama into art. No apologies needed. That's when she decided on the title, No Apologies. When the full version dropped a week later, it soared to the top of the iTunes charts overnight. Every lyric echoed what fans had seen on TV, not anger, but conviction. Critics praised it as one of her most honest songs yet. Ironically, the very incident that tabloids called her meltdown had reignited her music career in a new, powerful way. Weeks later, Carrie sat with Jenna again, this time not on live TV, but in a private studio room for a pre-recorded, calm conversation. Jenna smiled nervously as cameras rolled. So, Carrie, I have to ask, how are you feeling after that last appearance? Carrie chuckled softly. You know, I think it all worked out how it was supposed to. Sometimes the truth just needs a louder microphone. Jenna smiled, relieved. "And the song?" Carrie grinned. "It's my best kind of therapy." The interview aired that weekend, gentle, warm, and filled with mutual respect. The narrative had flipped completely. Carrie had gone from controversy to empowerment, not by apologizing, not by retreating, but by turning fire into fuel. And as she stood backstage at her next concert, guitar in hand, about to perform, no apologies, for the first time live, she smiled at the crowd chanting her name. The lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and with one deep breath, she stepped forward. She was no longer defending herself, she was reclaiming her voice. And this time, the world was truly listening.